Remember when we watched The Nest? It was a pretty good killer cockroach movie with one heck of a monster at the end. Well, I bet someone watched that movie and thought, I could do that. And thus, They Nest was born. They Nest opens up with some guy who's looking pretty seasick. The crew comes in to help him out, or to throw him overboard to his inevitable death. Geez, remind me not to take a cruise with these guys. Now some guy's getting wheeled into the hospital. We don't learn much about who he is, except the fact that he has a little pee-pee. Dr. Ben Cahill comes in to operate on him, but he just can't do it. Something's holding him back. You see, Dr. Cahill has been fighting his own demons, and he's been hitting the bottle a little too hard, so he can't operate unless he's drunk. The hospital administrator comes by to force him to take a leave of absence until he can get his life back on track. Now having some time off, he decides to head to a vacation home on an island that he and his wife bought before the divorce, and he wants to fix it up. While on the ferry, he meets the town's electrician, Jack Wald. Ben gets started on the wrong foot right away with this guy, telling him that the house he bought is a dump and it's gonna need a lot of work. He even says whoever used to live there left it a pigsty. Little does Ben know that the house he bought is Jack's childhood home. Oops, he lost it to the bank. Even though the good doctor bought the place fair and square, Jack still feels that he is the rightful owner. As the barge docks and Ben prepares for his life as an islander, we see the guy from the beginning dead on the shore, with a bug crawling out of his mouth. Jack goes to see his brother, Eamon, and tell him the news about how he met Ben and how he's going to make his life hard so he'll move out. Then they can go buy the place cheap. Meanwhile, Dr. Cahill gets settled in, and this guy gets a nasty bug bite. Quite an eventful first day, if you ask me. The next morning, Cahill works on the house, but his power keeps cutting out. He's made multiple calls to Jack, who just isn't fixing it, because he's far too busy at the local bar. Ben swings by to try to apologize to Jack and just start over, but it's too late for that. Jack wants him out of there, so he tells him it'll be fixed in a few months. Things get tense, but the sheriff is there to calm down the situation.
Shut up, Eamon.
Not being able to do much at the house, Ben decides to pick up some lumber that he ordered, where he runs into Nell Bartle.
Hey, excuse me.
Just about the only person on the island who's nice to him. Later on, Ben goes to make dinner, and when he opens the fridge, it's an infestation. So the next day, he heads into town for some roach spray. But Nell's not at her general store. She's helping her mom teach. So Ben heads over to the school and waits for class to be over. While he's sitting there, he reads a book about the African armadillo bug, which, spoiler alert, is what's about to infest the island. Anyway, after class, Ben and Nell go to the store and she sells him something way stronger to spray, which will kill anything that breathes.
Spraying this stuff, phenoxyphenol
methyldichlorethanol.
At this point, Ben thinks that Jack put the bugs in his fridge just to mess with him, and he confronts him and a fight breaks out. But the sheriff once again breaks it up. This time, he takes the doctor's side because he needs his help. They found that fisherman dead, and he wants Ben to look at the body. When they get there, however, they find a bottle, and they just assume he got drunk and drowned. But Ben sees a bite on his hand, and he isn't quite sure that's how he died.
Anything could have caused that. Crabs, sea lice, anything.
Ben goes to spray the bug killer, and he starts in the fridge. But it's empty. not a sign of him anywhere. Meanwhile, Jack goes to the power station and purposely shuts off Ben's power. But he's not alone in there. Little does he know that the power station has a bug problem too, and they attack. He manages to kill one of them, but the damage is done, and he goes running in a stupor. Ben is driving to the power station to confront Jack as enough is enough, and he accidentally hits him with his car. How's the doctor going to talk his way out of this one? Well, he calls the sheriff and everyone comes to the scene of the crime. The medical examiner can't come to the island for another week, so they keep the body in Nell's cooler for the time being. And for now, Ben is innocent. The sheriff tells him that he should leave town for a while and come back when it's safe, because Eamon is pretty upset with Ben and might do something drastic. But what kind of sense does that make? What sheriff tells a possible convict to skip town? Well, Ben doesn't, because he wants to get to the bottom of what's going on here. Even though the sheriff told him not to, Ben examines the body, and Eamon comes in hot. The sheriff kicks him out so the doctor can do his work, but that was the final straw for Eamon. Now, he's going to take the law into his own hands. Learning what he needs to know from the body, Dr. Cahill has a better idea of what they're up against. It turns out that these bugs bite you, will paralyze you, and then lay their eggs under your skin, just for them to burst out. He calls a university, and of course they think he's nuts, seeing how this bug isn't found anywhere close to where they are. But the guy agrees to look at a specimen.
Philomenescus cerberus. Interesting bug.
While all this is going on, Eamon decides to go to Cahill's house and start trashing the place. When the sheriff shows up, he knocks him out. The men put him in the basement and continue their search for Cahill when the sheriff wakes up, and he's a little more than ticked. He knocks on the door, but it won't budge. Then the bugs come out. There must be thousands of them, and he doesn't stand a chance. They paralyze him, and the queen goes in through his mouth. Ugh, that's nasty. I think that the worst part of all this is that you're awake while this happens. That would suck. So now, this guy, whose name is Guy, decides enough is enough, and he has to tell Cahill about the sheriff being locked in his basement. Little does he know that the sheriff is long gone. Knowing that this is now a pretty big emergency, Dr. Cahill takes over and starts evacuating the island, starting with the kids. Seeing how Nell's mom is a teacher, it's not that hard. He gives her a specimen and tells her to give it to the university and to call for help. But it's going to take some time. As they get ready to leave, they notice one kid wasn't in class that day. So Ben and Nell go to his house, only to find that his parents have already been attacked. They know the kid's in the barn, but the floorboards are rotted, and Ben falls through.
Watch your step, the floorboards are rotten.
Oh, thanks.
Good thing he did, though, because he finds the kid down there. As they're being pulled up, Cahill notices something about the new baby cockroaches. They can fly. Now we're in trouble. Back at the center of town, everyone meets up. They bring out Jack's body and light it on fire, which just ticks off Eamon even more. He doesn't understand the gravity of the situation yet, until he sees them flying right at him. Him and his friends run away, but they don't make it too far. All of them are bitten and impregnated with even more eggs. Ben and his group escaped into the general store, where the kid isn't doing so well. It looks like he got bit back in the barn, and the doc must do an emergency tracheotomy.
Guys, we're going to perform a tracheotomy here.
It looks like his hand isn't steady, and he has to take a drink. But we later learn that it's just old coffee, so he got over his alcoholism. So that's one good thing. Another good thing is that it started to rain, which the bugs hate. So they're able to make their escape down to the dock and get into a boat. Now, when they said boat, I expected, a boat, not a rinky-dink rowboat. Well, of course, the rain stops and they can't paddle fast enough. They flip the boat over and hide with only a flare gun to help them out. Ben fires it off into the air and it lands on a fuel pump, which blows up and takes out all the bugs with it. Man, that was lucky. They get picked up by the CDC and everyone lives happily ever after. Is what I would say, but one survived and made it back to the city. And that was They Nest. Not a bad little bug movie. There's nothing that's too gory or horrific, unless you count that scene where the queen crawls in the sheriff's mouth. That was gross. I thought the acting was good all around. Ben was likable and really nice. Almost too nice. If someone told me that they wouldn't have my power back on for months just out of spite, I would probably run them over with my truck. And, well, I guess that's what he did, but hey, that was an accident. The music was also really good. Creepy when it needed to be, and it set the mood. There was some CGI that dates the movie a bit, but it wasn't that bad. The worst part was the beginning was just kind of slow. And when things did pick up, they didn't really have a game plan. They just got lucky when they shot the gas pump and everything blew up. Which, I guess that works. Watch They Nest if you're in the mood for a good killer bug movie. But still, I would have to recommend The Nest over They Nest. Better special effects on that queen. I give They Nest 2 bug-infested sheriffs out of 4.
Hey, guess who I ran into on the ferry boat? Abraham Lincoln.